Hi guys, it's kbunschoten, the president and founder of Certum Solutions here outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. And you are used to seeing my face while we go through a lot of QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online features, but we're trying something different today. For those of you that may not know, I'm actually one part of an amazing and diverse team here at Certum. And today we have the wonderful and talented Mr. Spencer Brundage, who is an enterprise specialist here, who's going to walk us through the QuickBooks Enterprise Setup Wizard. Now, you know what I'm going to say before we get started, cheesy as always, please make sure if you like this video that you thumbs up or like this video. That'll make us make sure to do more of this kind of content. If you just like our channel, which we hope you do, please also make sure to subscribe to our channel so you are alerted to new videos that come out. Now, with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Spencer, and most of you are not used to this, but I'm going to put myself on mute. I cannot wait to see this tutorial. Thank you so much. Spencer, take it away.
Good afternoon. My name is Spencer Brundage, and I'm going to be walking us through the Payroll Setup Wizard. If you'll direct your attention here to my sample file that I've got on this screen, I'm going to go up to the Employees menu here. Drop down, it should be right here listed as Payroll Setup. Now, when accessing the Payroll Setup Wizard, all of your secondary windows will be closed. So you get the Payroll Setup Wizard as part of its process, touches data in a lot of different areas. So make sure to close those areas so that you don't have multiple sources of conflicting data coming in. So while this wizard is open, most of the rest of your QuickBooks functions will be disabled. And we're set up here, and I'll click us back to the top. And at the start, the first thing you're going to do as part of the payroll setup will be to enter employees. And you'll note, just as a short aside, you'll note that under each of these sections, there are several video links that will provide additional context and examples of how to go through each of these processes in each of these sections as we move forward. So for setting up employees, we're going to be in the employees section. We're going to hit continue. If you have any employees that are already inside of the system, you'll notice that they'll already appear here. We'll actually click in on our example employee, Duncan Fisher here. And you'll notice the first thing they ask you to enter is some basic information: first name, last name, social security number, employee type. This will pull from one of 4 default options. If you've also added additional employee types in your employee setup section previously, you'll notice those types here as well. You also have the opportunity to enter their hire date, their state where they live and where they work. This will be important for setting up their state taxes later, as well as their email if you send them their payroll information and pay stubs through Workforce or any other adjacent system. You also have the option to enter that information later if you don't have it immediately available. Once that information is here, we're going to click Next. And you'll notice the first thing they'll ask you to set up is their pay details. By default, it'll include any payroll and overtime items you already have entered by default. You'll notice we already have these amounts and rates set up here. I'm going to go ahead and add an additional regular pay just so we can go through the process of seeing what that looks like when we set it up. Go ahead and remove this one. Doesn't seem to want to let us add it while there's one in there. Regular pay. And you'll notice that once that's been added, you can change that rate. We'll just as an example, we'll set this as $18. Now that'll be set up there. You'll notice you can also change the pay frequency. Again, if you have an additional pay frequency already set up, that'll appear here. If not, you'll see all the default options: daily, weekly, bi-weekly. Bi-weekly is the one it defaults to, as well as semi-monthly, monthly, quarterly, and annually. We'll go ahead and select bi-weekly. And you'll also notice the opportunity to include or edit time off and benefits and deduction items here. We'll just pop into the time off options to get a look at what that looks like. You'll see it'll provide a drop down for your sick pay and vacation pay items. If you're moving your employees into QuickBooks from somewhere else and they already have an available balance of hours, you'll be able to add that here. as well as any hours they might have utilized during the current year, as well as be able to adjust the earning policy and the time associated when that policy is implemented. Set the date for any accruals that might begin. Set your unused hours policy. You see these are your default options, your accrual limit, increase without any limit and are never lost, or use it or lose it, as well as any maximum hours. And you'll notice the same options are available for vacation pay. Once all that information is entered, we'll pop over to next. It'll ask you to review any personal details you've entered in the first section, name that'll appear on the check, gender, date of birth. Again, if you're bringing in employees for archival reasons, you can enter a termination date if that's relevant, as well as address, zip code, state, city, and phone, and emergency contact details if relevant. Once that information's in, you can select your payment method for that employee, whether that be physical check or direct deposit. If it's physical check, we can move directly through. If it's direct deposit, you'll need to enter whether it's going to one account or two accounts, as well as any relevant information for those accounts. For the purposes of moving through, we'll go ahead and hit physical check here and keep going. Then it'll ask you to set up your tax details for the purposes of tracking that information for the end of the year. It'll ask you which form W-4 you want to use. And it pulls this information yearly from the Intuit database. So you'll notice that these are the two options provided for Form W-4 due to that being when the Form W-4 was updated. So you'll select which one of these is relevant, as well as their filing status, allowances, and any extra withholdings. If there's advanced tax details, those can be entered here. You'll notice all that information is available there. And then the state W-4 information is available below. And you'll notice it pulled the California one automatically because that's the information we entered previously. Again, you get your filing statuses, your withholdings, estimated deductions, any extra withholding, and subject to various state taxes depending on which state you've entered. Additionally, this will ask you to pull additional information based on which state you've entered. California asks you to enter a wage plan code for an employee. We previously entered S, which is the state plan for unemployment and disability insurance. And then once all your information is entered for a given employee, it'll take you to the screen where you can review all that information placed together. I'm going to scroll down so we can get a good look at everything we've entered. And there we are. Once that's wrapped up, you'll hit done. It'll kick you back to the screen and you'll notice it'll say setup status completed once all that information is in. And we'll just get a look at the setup status indicator here. You'll notice that these two are showing as incomplete. If you hover over this, it'll show you what's missing. You'll see that Jenny Miller here to be complete needs to specify one or more state compliance items. So we're going to pop in and just take a look at that real quick. We'll set this to enter later. And we'll move through to our state compliance items. And you'll notice that we're missing that wage plan code from earlier. So we'll set that as a state plan just for the sake of completing that. And again, you've got your review here. And we'll enter done, and you'll notice that she's changed from incomplete to completed. So once this process is done with all the employees you're looking to set up, we can move on to company. Once you move on to company, you'll notice it'll say, this is where you'll set up your compensation and benefits items. Click continue. And you'll notice that according to this line here, QuickBooks will be setting up some default compensation items and additional ones can be added. The ones you'll come in with are overtime rate, regular pay. This particular sample file has two different salary designations. Most of your default items will come with one, as well as bonus, commission, any piecework items, cash tips, and paycheck tips. We'll go ahead and add one here so we can go through what adding one of the compensation items looks like. Let's add an hourly compensation item. So when you select it, it'll give you the relevant information you need to add that payroll item. It'll ask you what you want it to be shown as on the paycheck. And then it'll ask you whether you want that hourly overtime at time and a half rate. You can select no or yes. And do you want an hourly overtime at a double time rate? And if you select yes for these, it'll provide an additional payroll item that is supplementary to this hourly item. And we'll go ahead and just add these two just so we can see those get added here. Then once you select those, you select their names to be shown as on the paycheck. We'll hit done. And you'll notice it created all three of those compensation items. And you'll notice here that those items can also be edited later. All payroll items you add during this process, as well as your employee information, can go back and be edited later. Now that we've added these items, you'll note they can be assigned to employees down here. Just select that item. We selected hourly pay. Let's assign hourly pay to Duncan Fisher, and we can assign that hourly compensation item. And if we were to go back, you'll recall during the employees section, when we set these employees up, there's a section here where we added their compensation items, where he had regular pay and overtime rate. The hourly one we just added is now represented in the screen. We'll go ahead and hop out of there and get back to here. Once your compensation items are all in and assigned to the employees you're looking to assign them to, you'll do the same for your insurance benefit items. You'll see that those can also similarly be added and assigned to employees here, as well as retirement benefits. And you'll notice that for the PTO items, there's a few additional options here. We'll go to add to review these. You'll see that it'll automatically select the benefit type as paid time off. And you can select whether it's sick or vacation time. For this example, we'll do vacation time. And you'll notice it added one for both our hourly and our salary employees. These can then be assigned with a default rate per pay period. For the purposes of this, we'll set it to 1 hour per pay period for Duncan. And now that'll similarly be added to his items. Once all your paid time off items are entered and assigned to employees, we'll move on to any miscellaneous items. You'll notice that this is where direct deposit, cash advance repayment, etc. can be found. And you'll notice there's a large selection of default types that can be selected for miscellaneous benefits. I think cash advance, taxable fringe benefits, mileage reimbursement. Go ahead and add mileage reimbursement to this list. It was already on there, which you can note if it generates an item that has a 2 on there, you know there's already one on there that's represented by that name. We'll go ahead and assign that to Duncan as well. And since that's mileage, we don't need to put an amount or a rate or a limit. We can just associate that. Never mind. We're going to go check our IRS rate limit here for mileage. I believe that's 52 cents per mile. So we'll go ahead and add that there. And our limit. For the sake of generating this item, let's set the limit to $1,000. All right, and once these items are entered, we'll move on to the taxes portion. Fortunately, most of the taxes items are automatically pulled from the Intuit database and will be set up automatically when you enter which state most of your employees are from and work in. But if you do need to review it, there is additional information on setting up federal taxes and state taxes here. As for setting up those items, we're going to hit continue. And you'll notice here that QuickBooks does automatically update federal tax rates for payroll tax tables. If there's a reason you need to change that, you can click on this link here, and it'll give you setup help information there. You'll notice that the federal unemployment tax is the only rate that can be edited from this menu, and that will also cause your federal tax items to appear here. This is also where you can schedule payments, which once you select that, you'll go into the drop down here. You'll indicate which bank you're paying as well as the payment frequency. If you want to customize that frequency, that option can be entered here. And you'll note that when that option is selected, you'll get a little disclaimer stating that QuickBooks does not adjust the due date for holidays or weekends and will adjust the due date if you specify a date that is later than the due date enforced by an agency. And then it'll give you the ability to update that frequency with these options here: weekly, after payroll, and the number of days after the paycheck date. And then similarly, you'll notice the same option available here. Then we'll move on to state taxes. You'll notice that since we have employees that have been selected for working and living in California, that QuickBooks Payroll Setup Wizard has automatically pulled the California state tax information. You'll notice the withholding, disability, employee, unemployment company, and employee training tax have all been automatically included. And similarly to your federal taxes, these can be edited. Some of them can't really be adjusted, but you can adjust the rate at which these payments are scheduled with the same payment frequency adjustment we noted in the federal taxes section. Additionally, if you have any local or custom taxes, maybe municipal taxes that weren't pulled by the wizard, you can add those here. And that'll allow you to indicate who's paying the tax, whether it's employee or company, what the tax name is. We'll leave it as employee paid tax for this example. What liability account it's touching, whether it's asset, expense, or liability, as well as the account name. It'll indicate what type of tax we're tracking it as: local income tax, secondary location tax, or other, or none. And you'll notice a little blurb underneath here that'll sort of explain what each tax tracking type indicates. And then you'll also be able to set up the payment schedule as we've observed in both the state and the federal taxes, which is going to be a payment to an entity. We'll label our bank of any city here. We'll enter our default account number. And then we'll set it weekly on Monday. And here you can set the amount rate calculation. And again, we'll set that at 1,000 just so we can meet that requirement. And now here's our new local custom tax we just created. Once all the tax information has been entered, we'll move on to payroll history. This will really be useful for people moving into QuickBooks and migrating payroll history from another entity. You'll notice it's referencing 2024 on this one. The sample file operates in the future. It operates a year in advance. So it's going to ask if you paid any employees in current year in your setup, as well as whether you want to consolidate paychecks, if so, while moving the paycheck information over. We're loading our taxability information here. And when you open up your payroll history, you'll notice that we have our employees we've entered previously, as well as their payroll information for the prior year. Year-to-date gross, year-to-date tax, and net pay. If there's anything you'd like to edit, you can edit payroll history, and it'll show you the payroll information that has been provided for that year. We'll click inside of January. You'll see that 2 paychecks were issued in January, as well as how much payment was issued and over what rate. We've got our regular pay represented here. Looks like there was a little bit of overtime on pay 2, as well as all the taxes and deductions associated with that employee. If there's an additional paycheck that needs to be added, you can click add here. And then you can go in and all of these are fillable fields. So all of that information can be entered there. And the same is true for the other months for which payroll information already exists. And once you go through these quarter by quarter, you'll note that if QuickBooks catches any errors, those errors will be indicated here underneath the quarter entries. And the total net pay for each quarter will be represented in the upper right here. So once the payroll history for paychecks has been entered, we'll move on to the payroll history for tax payments. Again, it'll provide you with a little list of things to know. It'll give you the option to hide items with a balance amount of 0. And then you can check this information quarter over quarter. And you'll notice that QuickBooks provides its own calculations based on the information you entered previously on what it thinks the information is. It'll check that against the amounts paid into those accounts, and it'll provide you with a balance amount if there's a difference. And if you're interested in checking that information, there's this little calculator you can provide here. It'll allow you to enter any payments that are perhaps not tracked inside of your QuickBooks file. Once your tax payments have been entered, we'll be moving on to non-tax payments. And you'll notice the screen looks very similar to the tax payments ones. It's tracked in very much the same way, as well as the balance information there, which was also tracked in a similar fashion. Once you've checked all of your payroll history information and it looks the way you'd like it to look, we can move on to finishing up. And you can see on our end, it says the payroll setup is complete. If there were any errors or any cleanup you needed to do in the prior 4 sections, it would be mentioned in a table here showing what information was missing and what perhaps needed to be adjusted to make the payroll setup complete. And then it'll provide you with the option to go back to your payroll center, at which point it'll open up all the windows you had open previously and also open up your new payroll center window where you can review all the information you just entered. And from front to back, that's how to set up your payroll center using the payroll wizard for QuickBooks Enterprise.
Spencer, that's awesome. Thank you so much for the wonderful tour and for walking us through that. Well, with that being said, I guess we will wrap it up from here. And thank you so much for your time. And I know that our YouTube viewers and everybody else they're just going to love this video. So awesome. Well, let me know if either Spencer or I can help you with any of your QuickBooks Enterprise payroll questions. As always, don't forget us here at Certum. We do this every day and we would love to help with your project. Thank you so much. Have a great day.